Yɛdɔda Onyankopɔn ase sɛ ɛnɛ nso so wahu yɛn mmɔbɔ na wanya ne yɛn yɛde yɛaka ateasefoɔ ho. Last days are dangerous. Enti ɛnɛ Onyankopɔn adom ɔde akyɛ yɛn. Yɛboaboa yɛn ho na yɛde adwumadie no ɛde akɔ awieyɛ. Sɛ wobɛka yi a baabi ɛndora yɛhwɛ a yɛde ɛpɔn yɛ no ɛyɛ de yɛfrɛ no influence of Constantine. Na before influence of Constantine no, na papa no a ɔtwerɛ Eternal Kingdom book no, ɛfrɛ no the increase of error. Kyerɛ sɛ asɔɔ no nsɛmmɔne a ɛreba mu no seesei deɛ ɛkɔ soro. Neɛ Constantine yusu yɛ bi yɛ a ɛma asɔɔ no ɛkɔgye ne tum dendenden. Na ɛkɔfa ahweaseɛ ɛde brɛ asɔre no sika a ɔsa aseɛ sɛ ɔde yɛ asɔre no adɔyɛ. Enti ɔhyɛ aseɛ ɛde ne sika ɛhyɛ asɔre no ɛnyɔɔyɛ mu. Ebehunu sɛ Constantine no okum ne ba ekum ne yere. Nanso Church of Christ saa brɛ no Church of Christ din na da so o. Ɛmɛda na ɛnyɛ Roman Catholic Church Church of Christ. Ya ɔmanpanyin no a waba abɛwura asɔre no mu no wahwɛ ameyɛ kum ne yere ene ne ba. Church of Christ entumi anka hwee amfa nkyerɛ no. Baabi a yɛduro yi ɛyɛ de yɛfrɛ no the Council of Nicaea anaa the Council of Nicaea. Sɛdeɛ wobɛka ne biara wati anaa watwa. Yɛnhyɛ aseɛ. Pamkyɛw wobɛtumi atena ase a wo nkasa. Your body part ya onyame boy no bia ne nadwuma. The woman no do nine na nante. Bedru ha na wo de woto atena se. Sesi ya de atwe ade isi yi no, me de e na yetie. Ti mesrɛ mo me na me platform no. Aha. Enti wo de no, papa no se wa na ka ase kasa. Ti mesrɛ mo, wo de untumi nkasa tie. The Council of Nicaea and also Nicaea. So our outline will phone so. One of the outstanding examples of the relationship of Constantine to the church was his part in the first General Council held in the city of Nicaea. Abakosam say yɛhwɛ deɛ Constantine yɛ nyinaa no a deɛ ɛyɛ adutwam na ɛno ɛna ɛbɛ level ne ho ɔde abɛwura asɔre no dwumadie mu dendenden no ɛyɛ Church of Christ a wɔbɛkɔyɛ nhyiamu kɛseɛ sɛ yɛde kɔ akɔ take decision ɛde ama asɔre no ɛne Constantine ɔno nso so dwumadie a odiiɛ ɛwɔ saa nhyiamudie no ase. Church of Christ no any body bia and they take decision at the ma so no enti ebra onyame aso no ye na dwene say esese yenya body bia ono be take decision dia ma aso no na Constantine e de ne ho agim ye invite omanpanyini ema omanpanyini no aba hobi. This council grew out of the conflict over the nature of Christ. Na akwai te say eda no a obonsan kɔ daadaa Eve no all the time no there is an iota of truth e won sebɔne a ɔmokodie nim enti mentime kwase aba ɛfa Yesu sɛdeɛ nabosu ɛteɛ ho even up till now ye mu bi was a challenge no is Jesus God or not. There was a challenge no enti saa mentime kwase no ɛbae. Now, as a Church of Christ for settle, you say eno and a kofa the Council of Nicaea at the Bible. Constantine, calling himself Bishop of Bishops, sat as the chairman of the council and paid the expenses of the delegates. Into a man penny no onya meye church member no. Say no ono ye Bishop of Bishops. The Constantine poswa oje ye no. Na eno abika kira o se twin so be your papa na wa how oh momra metua obi a lore fe ere ama no aduane obi a bedie no watua edan ya de won betum no mom presidential banquet wa hwe aduane egu table so a oh gide be wi opeye okọ enkranya hotel obi wo ho ye fra no Fiesta Royal e wojowulu the way free advice okwana anya 300 cedis bi amfa anya hwe ya ewia ba akona de akodidi no go di lunch of 3 million obi say eh na bom 3 million no niam awom anya bibia aka ho ye ka say serve yourself papa e ho na wo na sabi kurase ne mi free begro na makọ Fiesta Royal me duru ho de me di kan hu ya ye bean stew ene kokọ me kwati ni ve me di asemefu afa bi fa kire ho a aduane bia bi wo ho continental me say enam aponche nam ne nkwan ne aduanom 3 million pe entianu bi na Constantine ya ma church of Christ a preacher for no wo mo hwa aduane pa esi ho no a na fa preacher ne wura fi ne Bible quotation na ne ho so his chief concern was not to which side was right, but rather that a spirit of unity be achieved. Ento ano Constantine no sa meeting no ofra nyina no anya nokure a ohwehwe se Yesu oyo onyame ana onye onyame nya anu nti na ofra meeting no na mo baba be hunu se otume yeyere a Christopher no bata ne ho ana hinie no ebe yi because majority of the citizens no aba be a Christopher and this one hwe ye na Christo sumu paapaya and your how and beba. If Christianity was to be unifying force in the empire, Constantine felt that he must keep unity within the church. Assembly in no. Na tiyo Constantine need unity. Out of unity are open or the tikuo. Yedi kan ka kira say ekuo ene enkabom enyepe. Ekuo eye union. Enkabom ene friend of unity. These differences of opinion caused so much dissension that Constantine wrote letters requiring the two parties to come to an understanding. Toma penin ni su ni power. Say abusuafo afanu ni nyina enye asemo yebeka no entum. When the letters did not bring unity, Constantine called the first general council. Theodoret says he commanded that the bishops and those connected with the council should be mounted on asses, mules, and horses belonging to the public in order to repair Tunisia. And to man penini no, and then ya presidential vehicles no. Or see a nubi and the yamfa a preacher for an intinum and for Mumra Lycia for meeting no. Or cofa to or beche. The Church of Christ a preacher for us and ante yache. Omo wini wo cast. Onu ani ni pon kwa o betena so. Onu a eni na frum pon kwa o betena so. To man penini de no no say, won fa nkrofo ne ntena so na mon fa wo momra. 318 bishops assembled. All their wants were supplied by Constantine, who sat as chairman of the meeting to direct it toward the preservation of unity. And Crawford, a Babeshia, no, I 318 Church of Christ mu, Sabre from bishops, elders and what, as a Sabre and the bishops, no. Obeshia, no, Constantine, and the chairman of the meeting. Kai say, Sabre, on your church member. The bottom you say, ye pen kabum adiama asafono. Now to hear he made the keynote address and exhorted them to unanimity and concord. In this speech, Constantine said, the gospel, the apostolic writings, and the ancient prophecies clearly teaches us what we are to believe concerning the divine nature. Let then all contentious disputations be set aside, and let us seek in the divine inspired word the solution of all doubtful topics. Asema papa yake ekwa mi so eye nokore. Enuanom tura kronkron Bible no a Onyankopon nam asomafo ne so e de amayen. Na onam adiye so ada no adi e de akere yen no. Akere se de Yesu Kristo no ne bobia ete. Ne sa enti mama ya nyina ya mfa ye ho nto Bible so tie ne hie o. Ye se nokore ye nokore. So obonsam kra na e ka e nokore. Ti Constantine efutuo ne. Ya nyina ya mfa ye ho nto Bible so. Na semente me ho asibi aba ye mu a ye mfa Bible e na ensolve. Onyame ma yenti ase da. Constantine. And the Church of Christ preacher who to Bible kire no a na ne bo afu ne bo so foro no. Bibia na wo Bible. Bibia na wo Bible. Constantine say yemfa Bible and then solve your problems. It is interesting that although Constantine had not been baptized and had no church office, he yet took a very active part in discussing this difficult theological problem. Onye preacher, onye elder, onye deacon, onye church member, or ma so ni bi. Nanso asam a efa nyamesam ho ati say yi no, Constantine ne de e na yetie. Ono the final say. Church of Christ for trouble akofa to your no. His argument and his authority carried the meeting, and when the entire group was called upon to subscribe to the creed, which was drawn up, all but 6 agreed. The council then took action. Arius was excommunicated and only 2 bishops continued with him. About 318 requests no. What would you je asam wo mka ye no atum. And then she said, no way. E kwaya mo de nyamesam e fa so no enye. Enti yedie ye anyintum. Papa no a friend Arius no a odi anim no e ho aye se yetu no. To every church nim nka ye ho bieu. Ti yetu no no 6 no ana aka no afi no omusuro. Ena emu miensa edimirika ena wo mko back na mienu bedi nachi. Bible say ekuo ketwa ma munsuro. Onyame ne mo nanam. Enti yetu brother also bebo onyamsem ho ban a unuanu mu atu. Another decision of the council was that Easter should be celebrated on the same day in all churches. Okay, no can Easter ho asem. Constantine sent a letter to all of the churches saying that it was not right that differences of custom prevail, and called upon them to obey this decree. And he is also abeyemra. Say obia di kwasi ada. To man pelina trocrat said, "Sa samu ayakan obia anyintum na do dikra to no e me dedodo." Aveti rokai. In this letter, Constantine gave the council the position of speaking for God. He said the Constantine, I'm a council no power say. The council of Nicaea no Ababesia no. They have the authority of God to speak on behalf of God. It is a church of life konya body bi ya gye atum saa no a eno am the Pentecost for the example ma. Ebre be kwa nanim wa no on be claim inspiration. Say the onyame ena ne yanam. Yankwa na Awurade kasa yete. Enu nti ye wotumi say ye hyemra. Constantine say tumi no ama council no awie. So say the about Church of Christ mu a the council no beka no final. Who di ano? Who oppose a what to aban mra? Ama peninu benya asem. Enti ya de saa tumi no. Ade ama council no. So council no betumi aye na o ma hye saa ebra no. All that is transacted in the Holy Council of the Bishop is sanctioned by the divine will. We already try to. Say someone yanka wa ha nyina no, onyame na se yanka. Ho nyankopon na ahyehyɛ e de ma yɛ sɛ de yɛ nyina yɛ nyɛ no wa ha. Enti ne yɛ ne kwan so ano. Throughout the council, Constantine dealt very kindly with the bishops. He presented them with gifts and served them elaborate banquets. He then wrote letters that widows and orphans, presumably whose husbands and fathers had been killed in persecutions, be cared for from the public treasury, and that bishops and ministers be given a liberal annual allowance from state funds. Oriye ya no, wako a step further. Watro letter. Say de e man kunafo a wo Church of Christ mu nyina no yemfa aban sika ntu omoka. Ni titire aye ekunafo a ebra persecution ebaaye no ye kunkum omukunum. Ene mofra ya kunkum ompapa no no yemfa oman sika ntu omoka. Owie ya owie ogina ho biu. E preacherfo no nso so yemfa aban sika ntu ayeka. Na nuanom anya noa bi ene ye nuanom e championing. Ye nya headquarters no de a wo hye akurase o wo okuro mu o ye nyina ketua pe esida daada na kai say baby am na wo sa ase ye de fe no increase in error ti de e ka nyina no eye error eye owaye eye ahwiase enya bible nkyerɛkyerɛ eye nkyerɛkyerɛ ya ya ma kwan na be wura so ni mu a ɛsɛ ya sɔre no ti fa no tu tirim sɛ baby ye nam nyina no church no animu gu ase. They say the Church of Christ preacher aban and etua neka. The medical doctor say on the surface in there, udi agro ube jubility. He then wrote an open letter to all his subjects, exhorting them to renounce their superstition and accept Christianity. Ahan so uni nyamesam wa wati. Watro letter, the case letter your open letter, it is said na watro letter na dey to Facebook. Obi abeti menya bia kenkan o se Ghana ha obi a we Ghana ni bia no wo pew e so oba church be Church of Christ ni na Church of Christ say dey nipa bem enya by force enya by force kwan e dey nipa e ba church mu Yesu no aso no ye ne dey no se kokko preach wo preach a dey ogidie na oma kwa me ebo no asuo no ene ye beje ne nkwa eye by choice na ban na force nipa enu bi na sabi ye nuanom a ewo Middle East ni ade eye no by force e so be kremoni enti Constantine atwo letter brabe Christo ni. Constantine gave the bishops robe of golden cloth to wear when he ministered the ordinance of baptism. Asayewie. Enti afei, Sandro ameka tell us here benya clergy any laity. The nya benya clergy any laity ya. That's here nyina ye shirt and trousers ya enye yie. Na so for atade no difference bem. To kopam atade e fe no rope no, te say de wo ya graduation ye de hye wo no. Na no de e gold o de aye. Sasofo no ana ugidi awie opeye abusuafo da bia akọbọ su bia no atade ese wo hye na ade bosu oni na asa atade we abede no bia ko wure nsuom atade ese wo no huja obaya de ndi obi akọ wure nsuom. This active interest in behalf of the church led Christians to exhort Constantine and rely on his decision. Afi anybody who so no na Church of Christ bishops no e preacher fo no elders ni nyina de wo nsa agu wo machi enti asem bia se wo Church of Christ ni apese take decision a na ya frɛ hello openyini Constantine ya so no ye ko preacher clinic Watakura de yenko ana me yenko o se mo nsan wa na ya san ampa the church ni decision bia no Constantine na influence yaba ne so he soon took the affairs of the church into his own hands and became dictatorial. Anybody who saw no Constantine, I be dictator at the Church of Christ. I saw no, I be saying the bottom. The Oka and the idea you may some and yet you may be. What you saw no aboso. The followers of Arius continued to defend their views and won over a large number of people to their way of thinking. This caused a disturbance that was brought to the attention of the emperor. Enti papa no a ye call the council of Nicaea ya o say de omoye no achia no wanye kom okoso kasa ya me nipa bebrebe hu sa de oka no no kre na ba bia kankamafo wo ho ehwa na eneyi a omfa telephone omanpanyin na se ho o say Arius ade a oye no enye wa ya ma enkrofo ya hunu se sa centralized body no ya build no enye papa ti enkrofo ne nye ntum. I said, okay, Mate, to settle it, he ordered a meeting of the bishops at Tyre. So he called another meeting. Now, same meeting with your Troy. He wrote, if anyone should dare to disobey our command and refuse to come to the council, which, however, I do not think possible, we must send him into immediate banishment. Abusuafo yan tro krata nkoma enkrofo no yesa ade no ti ka Ghana ha obi abebie wa no Church of Christ ebi headquarters bi an nkom no wanya obi abebie wa no se abusuafo entoma no aye twa no yan hwe ne ye om no wanya emanko no a wo mo a etumi ekoto o masase no ko om no wanya enti atro letter de abrel ya de letter de ba ya say bra meeting e wo Tyre na meeting wey obi amusuo be bono na o se o ma no o wie no to koma na se mi amadwen kra nkyerem so obi abeka se o ma na se de wa ma no ye beka na su ka wa su pa ma hoda abeso da ye mienu na otwa na su wie a hwe no de to aso that he may learn not to oppose the decree enacted by the emperor for the support of the truth. Asem no ano no. Wo man peni ahye ne mra, wo na akwa kyerɛ wadwene. Ti ama Constantine de tumi bia be wura so onimu a eni ho. Ti se Church of Christ no a onipa ne pe ne be wura mu no. Meeting kura no, ehun tumi fa open ko biu, eye order. Now when you find order from above. Kura sojafo mu a say obey before complain. Wo question bi ade de ye ka no ye wie ansa na obebusa ko soja mu a brofo mienu ye de adwuma yes sir no sir asa please I have a suggestion there ye no suggestion wo ye de ya fa nya hwe I just walk na assembly nyina wie a do abusa say are there any questions. Na se ogusu akasa no anu apejans ei watomra o otumi nyo sa ho ekure ho no no to kwa sabi u civilian moja no yatwi ni nyina na ama moja foforo after the council of Nicaea the Arian bishops succeeded in gaining the emperor's ear, and in the closing year of Constantine's reign they were in the ascendancy. The council of Tyre was to examine charges against Athanasius, bishop of Alexandria. Although the charges were false, the council found him guilty and sentenced him to death. obi a wo pose nsam a wo keka no de ne yesu ni bi adanse kurum yenya nipa abomu twa atro ade to ne so ade kopie council no anim kaisa council no a Church of Christ yo ya say ya ba benya headquarters so to speak enti nipa ti won nyina ya Church of Christ bishops and wo yonku bishop and ne yan kan say wo yonku preacher wo ba dwen tira mo say ade a oye no enye ene council no nhyehyeye enko wọ́n kọ́ tẹ́lá sí ti asẹ́m ni yẹ di asẹ́m ni wíyẹ yẹn no ano na Church of Christ mu bishops abu wọ́n mu nua ne fọ na de afọ́buo ne yɛde bu nu a yɛbua ne kun fọ Church of Christ no wonder sɛ papa ne fɛ no increase of error sɛ Church of Christ wɔ power yɛ a yɛde bua obi kun fọ na yɛ ku no na wuni mu a sɛ Constantine na wabua ne ba kun fọ ku no ɛna wabua na yɛde kun fọ ɛna waku no. Na de odi akire no osua no di kan na ante enti ya bua papa ne kumfo se yenkoku no Constantine received baptism and communion on his dead bed obewo ansa na obasu obewo no ohwade ya no anya de obenya nkwa ozo mo se esubo na di ni pe nkwa hu so mo masu Uhuru ne kwasi asem nyina ansa na wawu. Oso na muso lo so apa no de wa ni me hona no anu me moja no oni nkoso ma bi na me nom. Sa na mawu. Te wabasu anum bi ansa na wawu. This is sufficient, however, to show the influence of Constantine upon the church. Out of respect to Constantine for the favor he showed, the church gave up her independence and began to rely upon the head of the state for its organization and authority. Arehosem. Nya Constantine ye nke betuma ka say why ye bi ya jahi. Na so to aso ko wani mu a enam papayo ene adoye a ode ye aso no. Afa Church of Christ ne independence ya owo no ebehwere no. Enuanom yes, every congregation is independently autonomous. Obi e bo ne bra na bom ya wo moja ba ko a enam ye nyina ayem. Enti wo hia unu ya mo a kone ho ana afre no. Sa wo fre no na oni hwewe a esesa oba. Akwa se abusua a yetie yi. Sa wo papa ewo emofra edu. Na se munyi no obi a ware a obi a wawari oti ne fie no oye independent a obo ne bra nanso se wonu onuamo ehia se sese musia mokokosia mo wi a obi akọ ne fie sa na church ne tie we dia ya to ye mpani nie e da ma Constantine and the church independence so won waje and waka ye nyina abom e na ote aso ne so enu bia na ne e kwaso no o enu bia na ne e kwaso no. It is also we abusunyani. Na ya fra abusunya meeting. Na sa wo se wo ma. Ade kire se ye nipa wa bi a de hye wonti wo ma. Wo na wo so bambone. E so bambone. Ko sa wo ti abusunyam na abusuafo se abusuafo nyina be hia. Bibia nsi wo kwan. Na sa wo se wo nkwa. E ye wo so bambone. Anya abusunya no system no e na enye. Asamo aye kana no. Enti aso no say ye ni nyina da Constantine so na nema miensa mienu ene ye free Constantine ho ye di kan eye church no organization to organization na rade di si ho no na ma Constantine adwiregu ana no ahyehyɛ ne de ana aso ne authority tumi a ye de ka onyame asɛm de bɔ ye bra e wa aso ni mu na no nso so ye de akɔhyɛ papa ne nsa enti asɛ no. The leaders seemed too concerned with present problems to see the danger in this development. Na sa na tie onipa didi me ya na ne wure fi na wure ho. Enkrofo edi aso no anim no se o ma didi amen. Enti owo ye no e ba no kura no o mu hu. Enra brother ne buku no na o read portions bi. Also nipa no a o ka ne ho asem ana de kura ka ho asem unimu no. or question be a yogusa. Onyame soma ne bofo bremu a mo behu no. It's a problem pa elsewhere was on preacher to ha oh. Okay, say me hu from so bia e wo ho. Me hu emfum so bia e wo ho. O kasa dodo. So no be ka kire no. O kasa dodo. The growth of episcopacy. When Constantine called the bishops together for the first general council, they all came to Nicaea as equals. You know, you preacher, be a preacher. Brother Sam say a preacher, brother Sam a preacher. You know, you preachers. We are church leader, a church leader. We are elder. We are elder. Amen. That's the first time I'm going meetings. I don't know. Preacher means preacher. Elder means elder. So I'm the developer by a bishop. Bishop means bishop. So I'm called as equals. But when you see it, we have previously noted how these monarchical bishops' existence. The chairmanship of the elders became a permanent position, and the word bishop was applied to the holder of this office. And also, you have heard that. Elder for the meeting, papa no chair meeting, no, or no star no as bishop. To a permanent position. Ede ama sa papa no. Soon these bishops was elevated into authority over the elders. Each congregation had its own bishops, and gradually the city bishops grew in prestige over the country bishops. Absorbing their function, this was the stage of development at the time of the Council of Nicaea. Afei, the niba ehun so no na bishops no amemene elders no adwuma nje say o ye elder say be render incapacitated untumi nya hwe. When am church ni ma say bishop no ka kire ni say ye we. Enso elder ni nua elder wo mu nyina ye adwuma kro. Asesa no ama say no eldership no boss abem. And I say, oh yeah, elder na ati ha no mo a, oh yeah me dance ni. Say mo meet ase amokọ no. Mo papa bi ono e chairman. O wa ye mu na mo kọ no. Say ye ntimi nya permanent chairman a, and ye nya no den. Mo kwahia meeting no ase a, mo nyina mo ye equals. At that particular meeting, you appoint one person to chair it in the absence of the preacher man. Somewhere that one no. Owi a wawie mo pon mo nyina mo kọ. Ni bai ho so no na bishop no wa memene elders no ama say de e kra sensore no wo mo de o ma yira wo ensesam kra ya say we e na e bra mo call the first council of Nicaea no sa na church no asa yakodro. It is clear that at the beginning of the 4th century, now you travel from the 1st century, 2nd century, 3rd century, about the 4th century. And the century is made up of 100 years. See, about the 400 years after the establishment of the church. In the Church of Christ, it will require so many years. And so I say, the essay and kakra. The beginning of the 4th century, the organization of the church had not developed into any centralized control. The 400 years in Pomuno, still, aside there, nanso, yenya onipa baako a ono che ade no atifi, ya ono no control affairs. 400 years. By 359 AD, as we have seen, the Bishop of Rome was claiming authority outside his diocese. In the same letter quoted above, he condemns the Synod of Rimini because they assembled without the sanction of the Bishop of Rome. Asemwaba. Rimini for akosia meeting. Rome Bishop no pese ya di bishops ni nyina be hye nase. They said they Constantine be so emperor no. No so so bishop. And Rimini for akoya meeting ebre kura wo manye the consent kenebu afu muntumi nkohia me nka nkyerem se munhia Church of Christ yo te ha wo bɛn obi na ya nka wa ama and obi nya ya ono be kire say seminar we kọ we men kọ we kọ we men kọ wo ye preacher obi nya ya ko ono be kire wo ka we wuntumi nka wo ya na ne bu afu ya say asemu a esi ye no e ya abakosem na abakosem bia no e wo ho se e be guide yen enne into the future. History is there to guide us today and into the future. Na twifo se bia kwakwa na se dia wuo no ente kuma ntrase entonko. It's a Church of Christ yes ade na ko fa apiase de bre no a enne yi minua dwane firi ho. Na se etumi esa eno de betumi a preserve ya so the Church of Christ no a yehu Nyankopon e de abesi asase so e de amaye no. Enti ya nhwe de eto aso obakwa akohia ya anye ne tumi ne buafu whose opinion ought to have been consulted before that of any other bishop. In spite of these claims, the Bishop of Rome had no authority outside his diocese. That's why they use diocese. Now say unimu a omo pattern against the Roman structure. In the diocese no akwa say district. If we district, ne about region, ne yakwa national. Say yeah yeti Ghana hey. Wonim say enuanom a qualify for saade no the same mobilization and one more ye. Enti yawo district level and yenya regional level. Ye free adakwan. Abusuafo na me de me ka kire wo Erade Yesu o se atemu da no wo ne oyire kura ye mu matan mum na Church of Christ no me kwatra papa bi fie okukura ntumi akokon na akokon se otumi me kwa ye no no calculate light bill so light bill no afi no ubetua sei ena betua me light bill annual light bill betua man up front Sabra na me go school. Say the calculation ye e da de be ma kwan no 2 days e be to so. The 2 days na be to so be say age the next month no bill no. 2 days na ye di wo ho no. Ti obaje na me say papa wadawroma. Onu say sika no me ye school boy nyame na metua. Entu ka ya makwaje afini nyina de abre wo no. Say me say kwasa me kwaje 2 days de de asam na menka say wanya metirimuka. Ebuafu ente abira so yo na ye meeting o se mumbi ho no mo metum mo ntra ha bio era se sa akwa we metu no era me yonkofo se menye etwema anso do ente ma yonkofo ni bi ya se o mo ka bi ama me oluma se klati etire ye pre no enkrokro prewuti ade tira me ka kwa asema kire wo heaven ya yakọ no ya pre no enkrokro prewuti anfa ho ko wewe kuokuo bia mu ma ekuo bi anfa nkobru samjem na Awurade Nyankopon o mu ekuo aten obebu individuals aten enti prewuti ade bia wonim sa anya papa e wo Church of Christ minua anfa ho ko hwehwem asase so ha obi a wonim no a wanyi mpa wo yi metusala firi ho no mo a odi mfie san me se wo yi de yuanu firi ho se yan ya bre nso ha na anim no a onyi nche yansa na owo ya pay nso 150 50 ya man 200 ya man 200 umu na de odi 115 no okwa na bra bom te san me na ba akọ ono sa bra no ba di 97 or 98 mu ho Onyi ntina nani afra. Ne yakwa na otedam. Ti yana na ba akọ wi, ene yakwa ayi, ene yakọ srade ene ne afra otedam no. Na me wano no o makatre. Ana me enu awu, ana akọ no. We wu mobile. We nsusu awu, maba. Me nsu mi wu a aya amombra wai. Kana were ho. ade ohia free ye hwa ne se owu a ye mre say ono ompre nkwa opre owuo enti asase so ha no say de wadwe ntira say wo beche no wonche saa me ko me ma me wo fa ase bi me tira ase ado begina mechi afre me man man why you olu man na me say adan o so tiri nyina ye grey na me wanji mu hu me tiri nyina ye dwom ti wo ya na me bakotwa ase no say de ewu hu Mr. Samson at way the grey. My boy you said you grey. The actually said ye uba. Aha, ye uba. Me say I me preaching na as I be am 20s. Me to me akasa be 3 hours me no munsuo. They say because na me kakra afam. Wa hunu say wa brand here de na aso so enkwahia. Enti ye hwe da nche wa hasa. Ti emma obi embejejew na onfa wo nko osayim. The churches in the West, however, began to exalt the Bishop of Rome. They eventually gave him the title Pope, Papa. Church of Christ, you. Ya man pa baako so, ya man so, ya man so, ya man so, ya man so akoduru ba bi na say, okura fro bishop wa enye, say wa pa ho. Yan fro papa. Na papa no yan qualify no, na yenya Pope. The Church of Christ for yakofa Pope e de no aba. Abusia for. O sorry ana agbo Roman for da pa, nyom ne nkofa bai, menu mienu. Ti de no aba. And considered him the universal head of the church. The process by which exhortation developed may be clearly traced. To say there, you know Pope no. And na Mr. Samson urged there. Ahini bia no ene authority and nam. Tenya akonwa ya ade ne betena so. Na emom tumi a wo de hye ne nsa no. Enti enya afra papa no Pope pe ene ye say, "Be ama Pope no ade ama wo no kire se wo ye universal head." Be a Church of Christ sie biara ehye wase. Kokko ye wadwuma. Eno an ye nuanom wo ye no. Jotin kran. Nanso na dwen chan say owotumi obetumi di aba sekwi. Baba be requested for what so data. Without any proper communication. Oba ma form. What dey fail it. O say one failure, no wanya utiri muka. Wayi wadi. The church no wayi wadi na wonim ntia, oni woni hwe yo biew. Obati manya congregation a osi wo huna no, oye program kra onfrɛ, oni woni hwe yo. Enti na adwene mu no, watu wayi wadi afi church no as communication. Watawasu, wabane sew. Church of Christ you. This say there, nyame adom ya benya universal head, Papa Pope. Ono ana waba no. Say ye trace 325 AD, the Council of Nicaea exalted the Bishop of Rome, Antioch and Alexandria to the position of patriarchs. And the whole shall say free. Patriarchs which the fathers. And the Bishop say, "Oh, Rome, Antioch, Alexandria, no. Yes, I say from somebody where patriarchs or metropolitans, and gave them charge over the churches in their respective provinces, placing all bishops under the authority of their metropolitans." Metropolitans, you know, takrade ha metropolis. And the takrade nyina ne ya bishop ba ko Church of Christ mu o. Na the takrade nyina ne ya yahya ne nsa, papa hwesoma ye. Yakwatama metropolis ne ya yahya ne nsa. Greater Accra ne ya yahya ne nsa. Kumase ne ya yahya ne nsa. Abusuafo yes and Roman for ye. Yes the Church of Christ for the kofa bai. Na saa bia no amo ye no. Ane dia oye regional chairman no. Ade ansonsono ye e na wom. Sabre no. No amo de friend metropolitan. Ye de friend regional chairmanship. Ade ansonsono ye na wom. Anuanom. Ti yanhwe yie. Yanhwe yie. Ye be soa ya sori akọ no fe yi ase. We ensam a asie o. Ensam a asie twam. Ana enei enkakra ya ma obonsam wiawiayen. Ya ma obonsam wiawiayen tumidie sikanibre any unnecessary recognition. No. And again, I keep on telling me a young man. The Baba who church we mun say, Erade Yesu, obasa wo kosoro a ye de yen som anuanom obiara apaso akọ wani mo Church of Christ mu no. Me say be on the Lord's side. Eno ano no. Aso no kire no. Som den na preach na hwe do nyame beye. Church of Christ ni no kwafo biara. Or Church of Christ in kire na wo se agu no. And these people want to get close to you. Eno ano no. And said what you tell us what kunkum wani mu eno mom no repair nipa me nipa free wo nkan kọ. Ono sa wonya sincere. O ma ho. Ana no so na wani abresa chenchire ache. O ma kura medi wo so o ma. Ama. Say no. Abenya enkrofo a yade metropolis bi ahyehyɛ wo monsa na wo mo hweso. Yade charge ahye wo monsa. The bishops of Rome had authority over the bishops of Italy only, as the bishop of Alexandria had over Egypt, Libya, and the Pentapolis. In Africa, you know, ka ho. The Egypt, Ethiopia, the episcopal order of government secured the submission of worshippers to a system of priesthood. The pattern set by paganism that priests were representatives of the gods and the emperor high priest had become customary in the church. Afa yani ba ho so no na abosomofo wo mo order of worship sade akonfo no ana de all kind of yetie no yani ba ho so na sa na Church of Christ so yakwa akwaye no na yama obi etwa no to sade oye high priest no ye nyina ye kohia igwe oma na ba so de bo ho no mo a na hwa yedin ne de ye na sese yetie Church of Christ no ba bia ya wa no a e de akwa akodro no. And the New Testament teaching that man may approach God directly was destroyed. And I'm catch now. Yeah, they come and pray for me at the buy. It's a powerful from the church say. Now one more day, Erade Yesu Kristo di ye no. Wama on to me some man ye Onyankopon ma. Eno nti obi atimi bɔ mpaye ekɔ Erade ho no say saa de no ye twam. O your church member wa ntumi mmɔ mpaye. Just over so for and so for empire. The New Testament arrangement consisting of a plurality of bishops in each congregation was forsaken. After Church of Christ and can you do baby on what to be in the elders and Sadia and so Yaguno in the hobby. Well, to mention a congregation with a new elders. And until and then preacher be free baby, equally elders and my congregation below. Takwa. The preacher be in the Namoa, go to one more share case in 1 2 draws a Mumuhia elders. I got tried the about 3 months, and one way elders are more. No call. No fair near as Yakum. Tis a Unimua, and the American, the time no enter now as and while there was here and there sincere Christians trying to do the will of God as revealed in His word, the eternal kingdom largely disappeared from the pages of history. Even though you were Christopher and Kwaphobia, no mumia mani, some bebo Onyankopon no kura ho ban no. Eba abakose mudia, afei Onyankopon asore no a, papa no fe eternal kingdom no. Church history and the area abakose mu no afei na ayira e disappear. The dark ages no, no. They say the esum edru Church of Christ. Ento hwehwe Church of Christ no a uhunu bio. Aso no ayira. Esum abebutu aso ne so. Ama Church of Christ Awurade Yesu ade ne moja ebetoye no ayira. Yentu mi kan se betuma emienu e de aka ho a. The term ecumenical, ecumenical councils. The term ecumenical means universal or worldwide in extent. As applied to the church council, it refers to the first 7 councils to which all of the bishops were invited. In the Church of Christ, here I say, you know, I feel that the Abba say, no, Ensiemu Akese Ayekro. What we want to see there will be a friend memorial. Na okwa ho no ma na ehun se prenku tuntum pa na edi ahim no preko the Church of Christ afei the aka ya ne meeting oya ya say bra meeting oya ya bra be hia let it be a circulate a preacher for me yenu ya ye nuan bra dwontom so makoka asem ense so omoka asem omoka no ye audio ana nkrofo no anya audio no bi atie ana o ma take offense. I'm taking offense ya. No, my instructor, a preacher for a worker assembly say, what's happening? Okay, fire, hono, tro, never be there. One try family, Obeti Yanka. That's how we hear one audio so. And the one cassa transcribe it. Then that already know our here. Be meeting. Saa na sha ase. Ti ya benya meetings ya yakokọ ko na say yakọ akese ya maako and so. They were held at Nicaea, 325, Constantinople, 381, Ephesus, 431, Chalcedon, 451, Constantinople again, 553, Constantinople again, 680, and Nicaea again, 787. There was an 8th council conducted at Constantinople in 869 that some count ecumenical, but it is not generally considered to be so. Where history had between that two. Some Protestant scholars do not count as ecumenical any council after the Chalcedon Council in 451, as by the time the Pope began to influence the decisions. On the other hand, the Roman Catholic claims that the Pope in council guarantees their ecumenical character and on the basis claim 12 additional councils as ecumenical. One more ecumenical no. One more call the aja to me enson. Pope no ba no, omo call edumienu eka ho. Na so abakwasam ane historians di to me say there be enson no ane emfa nya adwuma. Memfa we nka homa na mentrase. The establishment of Catholicity. Afei na yabeti Roman asori. Na matenase short. The increase of heresy led the bishops to desire more centralization of authority and a set pattern of doctrine. Asonwa say ya ma tie brofo no. Say die. And Crawford conduct they desire and more centralization. Said the Church of Christ in society and yet and until the end to be preaching no. What can you first camera? Yan fama ye need pull back ya ye use free moon. Sad the enemy why ya my yen kwayanim entabusuafo yan kan humom. Ye kan humom. Ne nyani pa ba ko mo tena ye so a ade okasa ye nyina ebetie ne atumi e de aisa ade no afei de to so mie no ye nkyerɛkyerɛ bi ho no mo a enye wa hono sa ugyira bonti na wo preachie sa tight je enye no emenkrofo bufu nti aso no wo mo ma so preach sa entwenebo enya emenkrofo bufu so preach sa support enya emenkrofo bufu. It is answer no ye nine history o. One will say ye organization no ye sesa no ye church ni bi so ho no mo a ye sesa no Church of Christ there anya no abi na nei ye ken nya no abi ne yake almost say I'm go to America for sa preaching no hate preaching as all preachers out tiny nipa Yesu no adi na chi ne boma e wa aso dem Yesu oboma bonkrofo ma hwie om sika gui na ntan wo mo ento am say yansesa no ne yansesa doctrine ne yansesa ye nkyerɛkyerɛ ni bi se yetimi ya saa de a ne church ne bɛkɔ nanim. The New Testament was recognized as authoritative. Now see her. But they believed it needed an authoritarian interpretation. Asamwaba. Bible ne de yajutum se ayonyame asem. Na mom ye hia nkrofo bi, hia nipa bi a omo so watumi bi a ombetumi de kyerɛkyerɛm. No wonder say wa akọ Roman da no omo preach wa Latin mu. Entinka yatete tia no ma yetinketenkete sa no ka kyerɛ Bible mu a wachi. Tese ye nya nipa bi, ahu ye nya nipa bi. Ye ono no betumi a kyerɛ ma me hunu sɛ akwara kyerɛ mu. Enti ya pe nipa bi no wa be kyerɛ mu. Because sɛ ye nyina tumi fa Bible so ye kyerɛ mu no de ye ne ye moa. Enti ye hwɛ sa ade no. After the development of the episcopacy, the church had an organization which could demand conformity. The bishops became the spokesperson of the orthodoxy and officially representatives of the organism. They say, the Church of Christ, and Crawford to Miakasa and the Mary Yesu no, bishops and enquire. Only bishop wa, you come, a Drubian Cadem. I feel, yeah. They developed and enlarged the rule of faith. Their interpretation began to crystallize. And from the beginning of the 6th century, there was a pattern of doctrine designed as Catholic. I read no SCRE. Anybody who saw no, the 6th century, 600 years. And they take it as sort of no, I feel Roman, and the baby. Te utie Roman for radio so say Catholic GDA ya som pintin Church of Christ for the cover by why yanya here the aba na name so ya the foforo oba. The word Catholic began to be used in the 2nd century. Its primarily meaning is universal. The church from the beginning was the universal church of Christ. In this sense, it may still correctly be called Catholic. Na maka church sa na bon samote oya de bi ofa no kure kakra na de nkontompo no o de ape so church no ne no kure mu no the universal church of Christ and omu use sa understanding no said omu use bishop understanding ya omu say ade no and omu the word Catholic at the buy na omu Catholic na akire universal the car yentin the term however was soon applied to the doctrine and organization that received the approval of the majority of the bishops. Some modern scholars refer to the church before the first church council as the Old Catholic Church to distinguish the early church with the simple organization and worship from the development of the Roman Catholicism. Afei omo esa de no awie, wo mo wie ye no. Enkrafo om nim no kure. Se omo ka aso no ho asem a, wo mo refer to church ni say the Old Catholic. To read the history now, or refer to the beginning of the church. James chapter 3, verse 1. My brethren, let not many of you become teachers, knowing that we may or we shall receive a stricter judgment. Abraham said 2 days ago, no, the catch there will say, Kumasefo eye movie bi na nyom wada se ne se onyame mfrɛ wa ma ne mfrɛ momma ye mudodo ampepre ye ho amaye akyerɛkyerɛfo ɛno ma akɔfa trouble ne de aba no akwa no a ogyina hɔ no oni mandate onyame mfrɛ no wɔse wafrɛ no enti wɔne ba ho so no na ɔbonsam wahu ɛde wokɔ na kai na hunu sɛ ye mudodo a yagye atum sɛ ye preachie ɛwɔ Church of Christ mu no Atemuda yaya tamuo no ebeye fenchem ɛsɛ church members deɛ the church member yɛ awurade bɛbu n'ani agu so no wo deɛ ɔmu n'ani gu so mɛma asɛm a mede twɛ toɔ ɛde ama wɔ me say may God have mercy on us and help us all to uphold the church and her doctrine in its purity. Amen.